Hey readers, Echo here. Well, I just wanted to make a quick video to update you all on what I've been buying and been interested in lately. It's starting to become pressing as the books pile up, and it will be more and more difficult to do this the longer I wait. Before I get started though, I want to just thank and shout out some booktubers. It's a wonderful community, and I feel like it's been very rewarding to be a part of it. So I want to thank Noah over at Everyone Who Reads It Must Converse. Very lovely and warm person, very welcoming. He does wonderful live streams every Friday, which it's late for us Eurotypes, so not often I get to participate, but it's highly recommended. I want to shout out Celia. She has a lovely channel that mostly focuses on reading vlogs, and she does a lot of interesting reads and buddy reads with other booktubers. Wonderful videos on Fosse that I highly recommend. And she's a great ambassador for Norway because she always films these beautiful shots of what I assume to be the area where she lives, and but it's always great to watch. I want to shout out Books You Haven't Read. Very talented, funny man who really deserves a larger audience. He's very eloquent. He's got good production value, and you can find a lot of good insights from watching his stuff. Not a booktube, but I want to shout out Spinecrackers. They recently celebrated their 1-year anniversary of making their podcast, and they did a Q&A there that I would recommend everyone listen to it. It might even be a decent starting point. They have very interesting, very funny long-form conversations about a weekly read they do, and I think that getting to know, I mean, in the parasocial sense, I suppose, but getting to know their personalities and sensibilities greatly enhances the viewing. So yeah, you should give them a listen. And there's so many more to thank and shout out, so I think that I will do that in another video to keep it short. Anyways, so first up, quite recent acquisition is Monument Maker by David Keenan. It's one of those books where I just read very few short lines about it and understood instantly that this was a book with great scope and amazing ambition. Now, if it turns out to be well written as well, then this will be an amazing read. Is it possible for books to dream within books? Is there a literary subterranean that would facilitate ingress and exit points through these dreams? It says here that it's a book within a book within a book that runs from hallucinatory historical epics through future visioned histories of the world, narrated by a horribly disfigured British soldier, made prophetic by depths of suffering. I kind of wished that I had knew that it sort of converses with its previous work, so I could have gotten that as well. But whole histories of art and religion, books that are glorious choral appendices, bibliographies, imagined films, tape-recorded interviews, building to a jubilant accumulation of registers, voices, and rhythms that is truly choral. If you look at the appendix here, should be very interesting. Next up, I got the Discovery Heaven. Shout outs to the mysterious L in my comment section. This is apparently a very polarizing book. Most people I know who've read it or attempted said that it's terrible. But then again, you can find positive reviews by esteemed booktubers like Orpheus and Paperbird who praised the book highly. I don't know too much about it. It sort of sounds like it's that the core of it is sort of like a Settembrini NAFTA type having it out pair. You have from what I've read of the premise, it sounds it can be quite good. So we'll see if the writing is what holds it back, or if just people aren't keen on those sort of philosophical discussions. Next up, I have Heinz Kidnap, McElroy. I guess I slowly just want to collect all of McElroy. This seems to be a bit, I don't know, I think this, from what I've heard, people don't maybe praise this as much as some of his other work. So I think that it didn't feel, it felt like this was a reasonable thing to just buy in the new reprinted edition, and as opposed to just trying to chase down the expensive first editions. But yeah, there's plenty of good discussions on McElroy. You should go watch, or you should go listen to Spinecracker's talk with Ben from the Bookshore on McElroy. Very, very interesting and instructive episode. I mentioned this briefly in my last video, and it really was Christina Tudor Sideri that made me start thinking about Blanchot again. After reading it the first time, I picked up Thomas the Obscure and sampled passages, and I was much more impressed than I remember being when I read it. So I decided to look into Blanchot and his literary nonfiction, his criticism, and it seems very, very good from the couple of articles or essays I've read already. Next up, let us now praise famous men. James Agee, Walker Evans. This is, of course, quite a famous work of nonfiction, but apparently the prose of it apparently approaches Faulkner at times. I think it was on the Bookworm, the Booktuber, not Michael Silverblatt, that praised this as one of his top reads of 2020. And the praise was very, very high, and so I sprung for it. I think it's not situated historically in a spot where I don't really know that much, so it's a bit of a atypical pickup for me, I suppose. But yeah, it seems quite interesting, and yeah, feel free to educate me in the comment section if any of you fine folk have read it. Well, next up, The Secret Service by Wendy Walker. This is the Tough Poets Press reprint of this book, and yeah, this used to be one of those Sun and Moon Press editions, and boy, Sun and Moon, they have some bangers on their catalog. Mangled Hands by Johnny Stanton is a wild book, which is also reprinted by Tough Poets Press. They had Palaks Palaks by Liliane Giraudon. The first paperback of Raymond Federman's Smiles on Washington Square was by Tough Poets Press. Steve Kotz, Ronald Sukanik, I think Blown Away was on there. Harry Matthews, Valipo fame. Sun and Moon, for the amount of books they published, they had a very high quality. But this book, sadly, the shipping to Norway is very high, so I sadly don't get all of the Tough Poets editions, but this sounds pretty interesting. It's the Secret Service has apparently discovered a method of physical transformation that enabled their agents to masquerade as objects, and it promises like a Baroque prose styles, and from naturalism, allegory. It has like surreal catalogs, philosophical and metaphysical fables, dreams, and these are woven into an epic they are woven into an epic story of intrigue and political maneuvering. Read a bit about it on Wendy Walker's page, and she said that she started out writing this by playing a game where she took words that she had to look up in the OED and tried to write a story with them. And she found out that coincidentally this is sort of a game that Lipo uses as a warm-up exercise in workshops. At the end of it, there's an interview by George Salis, which also appears on his Kaleidoscope. If you're interested in this book, maybe you should start out by the interview. Starts out well, trying to find parallels to Hamlet's situation in Greek drama, and came upon the Oresteia. So, next up, I got Desertion and Gravel Heart by Abdul Razak Gurna. I ordered these as soon as the price was announced. Don't really know too much about him. He wasn't on he wasn't an author my friends were reading or talking about, so he was sort of a new writer to me. So this is On Heroes and Tombs by Ernesto Sabato. I have not read Sabato yet, and of course he's mostly, through the years, I've mostly heard him referred to as the guy who wrote The Other Tunnel. He sounds quite interesting. The setting is pretty gruesome. It's about a woman named Alejandra. She shoots her father and burns herself alive over his corpse. And then the story shifts between sort of perspectives to reveal the lives of those closest to her, her lover, a writer who loved her mother and her father. Next year is shaping up to be the year of big books. Next up, Vana Art of the Fugue by Dumitru Tsepan. I have no idea how to pronounce that. He's Romanian, I think it's a Romanian author. A man leaves his house carrying an armful of roses, walks past a man slaughtering a pig, runs to catch a bus, and exhorts the bus driver to go faster because he's rushing to the train station to meet a woman. This is sort of the main say lead, the main idea of the book. As the name implies, he's writing a book in sort of a fugal structure of point and counterpoint, retelling the same events with details altered, like themes and variations. I found a review by Stephanie Sobel who said that the Vana Art of the Fugue is more an exercise in the conflation of repetition and amnesia, which sounds very interesting to me. Next up is Saturn by Henrik Bjelke. This is a work of avant-garde experimental writing. It's sort of a continuation of Joyce and Beckett. It says it's a recent Danish addition to the great modernist writing tradition. Also has like influences by surrealist montage and techniques, and from what it's hard to really find much info about it. Kind gentleman on Discord recommended it to me. Henrik Bjelke also wrote a follow-up to this book called 100 Postcards from Hell that was released in my birth year. It's a drama of the fall or the decline of Europe, the decline of the family, sort of like the uproot of traditional values and types of work, talking about surrendering to the deeply repressed powers in the human mind, the Saturn alien that swallows up their children, the purification and regeneration that is played out on the European scene. So it takes place in Barcelona and Amsterdam and Paris, etc. And it's in that historical time-space continuum that stretches from First World War and resonates all the way back to the mythical patterns of the old Babylonian Gilgamesh epic. I'm going to read it in the original Danish, which is fairly similar to Norwegian. There are some vocabulary differences, but it's doable.